Well, hello there, my little pork chops. Welcome back to the channel. So today, we're going to be talking about the Sony A7c Mark I and why I've decided to not sell it. I'm actually going to keep this bad boy. And I wanted to go over a couple of reasons why I'm going to keep it. So, if you're ready, let's get into it. Run the intro. Okay, so this is the Sony A7c, and I've had this for about, I don't know, 3 years now. I think this camera is the cat's pajamas. That is at least until I discovered some caveats with it. And there are so many things to cover at this camera. I've made a review about this camera, and I talked about the pros and cons of it. Every camera has pros and cons. There's no camera out there that's perfect, obviously. And it really depends on how you choose to utilize a camera like this. So right now I'm recording with the Sony ZV-E1, fantastic camera, beautiful quality, recording in 10-bit by the way, and I really like it, but it's not perfect. But you can notice sort of a pattern here, what kind of cameras I'm picking. I'm picking the small compact size cameras because, I don't know, there's just something about a compact camera that you can easily fit in your backpack, that you can easily fit in even your pockets if you have big enough pockets. Like this is something that could definitely fit in my pocket if I keep the lens in the other pocket, so to speak. But yeah, it's compact, it's light, and I really enjoy it. The one thing that originally bothered me about it is the grip. I did not like the grip, especially when I was shooting a wedding, and I noticed it right away, like this is not very comfortable to hold for several hours. But having said so, I've gotten used to it. And what's really shocking to me is I noticed that the Sony ZV-E1 is much more comfortable to hold, but you know what? That's a topic for a different video. And one of the things that I really did not like about this camera when I first got it was that it did not have 4K 60. 4K 60 is fantastic, especially if you're doing slow motion B-roll for product showcases. I have different channels where I review different products, and I really like to be able to slow down things. It doesn't have to be, 240 frames per second, but 60 FPS is just good enough, But this camera doesn't even have that. Now, it does have 1080p 120 frames per second, which look great, as far as 1080p is concerned, especially if it compares to something like a smartphone. It doesn't matter if you have a Samsung or an iPhone, it just never looks just as good as it does on these things. And so if you want to do slow motion with a camera like this, I think it looks excellent. But I was really disappointed that it did not have 4K 60. But at the time, like, it was one of those things like, do I want a compact camera, or do I want to get something more expensive that's bigger and bulkier? And at the time, it just did not exist. Now, we do have the Sony A7C II. So why don't I sell this bad boy and get the Sony A7C II? Now, I'm going to make a separate video about that camera. That camera is very interesting for a number of reasons. But the reason I'm not going to get rid of this one is because it's such a big hassle to sell a camera these days. And my friend Brian recently made a video about it. I put a link in the video description, but I also have it in the community tab if you want to check it out. It's really good. It really shows you the difficulties of selling and getting a really good price. It's just not, for me at least, it's just not worth the hassle, I mean, if I want to get the Sony A7C Mark II, I'll just get it. But because I have the Sony ZV-E1, it is good enough for me. I have that for video, and this one I'm going to keep as a B-roll kind of a camera, and also to be able to take 24 megapixel photos, which this camera, it just takes excellent photos. I've shot weddings with this camera, and it just delivers time after time. Now, the reason why I would consider selling this camera is because I'm a one camera type of guy, or at least that's why I aspire to. I'm a bit of a minimalist in a way. Don't look at my lenses. I know I have a lot of lenses. I wish I only had 2 lenses, by the way, but I actually happen to have a whole bunch of lenses. I should make a video about that, all my lenses. And I'm actually thinking about replacing all of those lenses. And I made a video about this. The Tamron 20 to 40, that would be an excellent lens to replace most of my needs, you know, because 20 to 40 is a sweet spot. But again, I'm getting off topic once again. That's what I do on this channel. I get off topic. We're talking about the Sony A7c. As I was saying before, I'm a minimalist type of person, at least aspiring to be, and I really don't want to have a bunch of cameras. And yeah, I do have a couple of cameras stored away, and you know, the GH5, the G7, and a whole other bunch of cameras, which is just sad. But I'm just not good at getting rid of things. I'm a bit of a camera hoarder, actually. You might call it that. And if I do get rid of cameras or lenses, I actually just give them away. I actually gave away the Panasonic GX800 to a friend of mine. Just like that. I just gave it away. I didn't want him to give me money for it. I just gave it away because he was my friend and he needed a camera, but he was too cheap to get one. You know that you were too cheap to get one, Boris. And yeah, that's the way things go. But anyway, it's a very good camera because of its compact size and its full frame, and it's just beautiful, and I really like it. But obviously, it's not perfect. You know, the lack of 4K 60, it doesn't really have good image stabilization. It only has one SD card slot, which is a bit of a risk if you're shooting a wedding. Thank God I'm not a professional wedding photographer, because then I would have to upgrade to something with two SD card slots, right? Battery life is one of those things that I think doesn't get mentioned enough about this camera. You know, a lot of people think that, oh, it's just a revamped Sony A7 III camera. It's nothing special about it, but you know, it's smaller, it has excellent battery life. In fact, I can't think of any camera out there, at least in the Sony lineup, that has better battery life. Like, you can record for like 2.5 hours on this thing in 4K. This camera is really good. Now, the one thing that really makes it impossible for me to keep this as my main camera is after I discovered the beauty of, you know, shooting in log and LUT files. And this camera, yeah, sure, it does have those settings, but it only records in 8-bit. And anybody who's been playing around with log and LUT, 8-bit is just, there are situations where 8-bit just doesn't work, you know. The 10-bit color, it just gives you the dynamic color range that you can really play around with the color and the LUTs and everything. And with 8-bit, I was always struggling to make videos look good. I think that the videos look great coming out of this thing, but I was always struggling. And there are certain things I had to do to compensate certain artifacts, or sort of hiding it so you wouldn't be able to see. And that was just tedious work, and I just didn't like it. So I like my friend Brian. He got rid of his Sony A7c. I'm not getting rid of this camera. I actually like it. I'm going to keep it. And that's all there is to it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Hope you enjoyed this video, and see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.